Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Hello, Belinda. How are you today?
I'm well.
Yes, it's good to see some familiar faces. Karen, how are you down in Texas? We've been holding you, sending you positive vibes. Amanda, Vero, so good to see you. Great to see some new faces. Emma, thank you for joining us. Nancy, Linda, Pri. It's wonderful to be with you guys today. You all today. Um, this week, I just am super excited to see you. And just if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat where you're joining us from, and maybe just one word of how you're feeling in this particular moment. So where are you joining us from in the chat, and one word that just is where you're joining us from, or how are you feeling in this moment? And that the chat is just a wonderful place for us to have our shared journal today. Yeah, we're in my backyard today, Amanda. This is real. This isn't actually a virtual screen. And so I'm joining from LA. We've got Oakley, Pasadena, Sandpoint, Idaho, Oakland, Dallas. Yes, Karen. So glad you're able to join us today. Tulsa, Amanda, grateful for community. So this week, and I think for the last couple of weeks, I've been just sharing some of my inspiration and learning around indigenous practices of wayfinding and navigation. And it's just the more I learn, the more I get excited. And just this week alone, I was sharing with a friend how there's these two sort of worldviews. There's the egocentric and an allocentric point of view. And the egocentric is basically, it's like the sun sort of revolves around us, versus an allocentric is we realize that we actually sort of revolve around the sun. And it really changes our orientation. And in some indigenous communities, they don't say, I'm to the left of you or to the right of you, which is an egocentric point of view. It's they'll say, I'm north of you or I'm south of you. And it really kind of expands our horizons. And so I was sharing my enthusiasm for this insight earlier this week, and somebody said to me, Omar, just looking up at this sky changes your brain to an allocentric point of view. And if you look down, your brain turns into an egocentric point of view. And one of the reasons I love collaborating with Belinda is that she's so good about bringing nature back into our daily lives and our daily rhythms. And so I was then sharing with another person last night. I was like, did you know if you look up that you get an allocentric point of view, and if you look down, you get an egocentric point of view? And she said, Omar, you're not actually looking up, you're looking out. And that just like totally pushed the boundaries of what I was even imagining, is that we're just on this rock floating through space. And just literally like an hour ago, I was telling another friend about all of this. And she's like, Omar, when we look up, we're looking at our front yard. And that was just such a beautiful way to imagine looking out at the universe, is when we look up in the sky, we're looking out at our front yard. And I think part of what we love about the practice of gratitude is just really bringing awareness to our noticing. What are we noticing? And how our brains actually influence that substantially, and how we look at nature influences that substantially. And so that's what this circle does. It provides a space for our own self-care, our own self-connection, our social connections. And what brings it together is synchronicity, that beautiful coincidence. And that's what nature is so good at, because nature is constantly changing. And so when we attune ourselves to the synchronicity of nature, we're really attuning ourselves to all that is happening outside of our own being. And so I'm excited to see what synchronicity happens through the gratitude blooming cards today, as Belinda starts us off with a meditation.
Thanks, Omar. So lovely to see familiar faces and new faces. We always start with this grounding space of presence just to be able to open our hearts a little bit more and just feel into our bodies before we create this space for synchronicity. So, as we are heading into a full moon coming up this weekend, and I'm feeling the burst of spring, even in Mount Shasta, California, where we hit 50 degrees, which is really like warm for where we are in Northern California. I'm just feeling this energy of like spring and emergence with this full moon coming. So, that's going to be the inspiration for our grounding today. So, I want you to take a minute to just notice your body as we get present together. And, if you're feeling a little stiffness or discomfort anywhere, just take a minute to just make yourself just a little bit more comfortable. This is something that we can always do for ourselves as part of our self care. And when you find a comfortable position, just slowly let your eyes drop to a gentle close. And let's just take a few deep breaths just to be in our own inner worlds right now. As you breathe, imagining energy from the earth coming from the center of the earth, flowing into our bodies like a golden light. And as you release, let go of anything that you don't want to hold on to in this moment. Breathing in energy and vitality. Releasing and letting go with our exhale. Breathing in and release. Breathing in and release. Imagine that there is a bright moon illuminating over your head today as you breathe. And that light, that beautiful silver light of the moon, is just bathing your whole body as you connect with the stillness and darkness of night and the light of the moon shining down on you. And as we step into the mystery of the darkness, imagine a drop or a seed or a flower coming down from the moon and gently, softly going into your heart today. And breathing in that gentle gift from this moon. And releasing to just create more softness for this gift to land in your heart. And just notice how it feels from your heart to be open and gentle to receiving today. Breathing in this energy of possibility. Releasing, letting go. As we focus our attention in our hearts, notice what happens to this drop or seed or flower that's planted into your heart. Does it represent a wish, a dream, a feeling that you'd like to have in your life? Take some time to just imagine it blooming in your heart. Breathing in and release. Imagine it slowly growing and expanding in your heart. And just really savor that feeling of peace and connection as you imagine this gift blooming in your heart. Breathing in. Release. Breathing in. Release. And then as you make this deep connection with your heart, just let yourself receive whatever it is that you need today to nourish you and your dreams, and to support your blooming as we head into spring. If there's anything you'd like to let go of right now, imagine sending that energy or that feeling down into the root of the earth for it to be composted back into the soil. And anything you'd like to keep in your heart today from this light of the moon, just allow it to live in your heart for this time. And just know that you can access this place anytime you need some inspiration, some hope, some possibility in your life. And just take a couple more deep breaths. And let that seed stay in your heart. And let it be fed by the light of the moon as we move closer and closer to the fullness of the moon this weekend. Breathing in and release. And we're going to just gradually transition into this inner space to our beautiful outer space of this circle. And just remember that you are your best guide and your best inner teacher for this space. And therefore, there's no need to fix, advise, or support anyone else right now. This is really your time to fully receive and replenish and nourish yourself. So when you're ready, take one more breath and gradually flutter your eyes to come back into the circle and see what gratitude blooming cards and messages we're going to receive today.
That was beautiful, Belinda, and perfectly timed to my neighbor's gardener. So, grateful that the meditation was perfectly timed for it to go and come and go. So this is the moment where we get to pick a gratitude blooming card. And so if you're interested in selecting the card today, which should magically appear in a moment, feel free to raise your physical or digital hand. Emma, thank you. So there's 7 rows and 6 columns. And feel free to just access your mic.
Let's do the 7th row, 2nd column.
Ah,
Pasque flower, destiny. Notice what makes you come alive. What is something you feel called to do?
does this one speak to you, Emma?
I definitely, just before I got on this Zoom call, I was actually noticing how I feel like I've lost that sense of inner knowing, or like being guided. And it feels like I'm looking for external things to guide me. And so, yeah, reading that card, what comes up for me is I do want to actually feel and experience, like beyond the shadow of a doubt, what I'm called to do and what will have me come alive.
Thank you.
And for those of you that have want to acknowledge anyone that's shared, feel free to use the emoticons, the reaction buttons. Just a fun way to acknowledge the people in this space.
Anybody else? And as you're looking at this card, just invite you to look at both the artist's illustration of the flower, the word, destiny itself, or even the question. So whatever sort of evokes something within you, just feel comfortable with an expansive way of noticing what this card shares.
I think I would like to share. I love that the card now has the actual plant in them. Because before, I remember we picked this card like, a while ago, and it was like, what is this flower? And so I'm just looking at the purple flower in the corner and how it's blooming. And I'm just noticing within myself how this winter has been felt very dormant, like an energy of just like hibernation and really deep rest. And I feel this like energy that's coming through in particular this week. And it feels a little bit like this flower that's kind of starting to open. And for me right now, I mean, this question feels so big. And it's hard to answer sometimes, because it feels like, oh my gosh, destiny, it's like this big destination that I'm heading into. And more recently, I've been practicing the subtleness around a lot, the subtle feeling of what does it feel like to really feel alive in the day? And what does that feel like in my body? Like if I were a plant and I'm just starting to open, how would that feel? And it's been much more reassuring, rather than trying to figure out like, what's my purpose and what am I really called to do? I think just following the clues of aliveness, and it's a little bit like a little breadcrumb trail, and it's like I just feel like I'm picking one clue up after the other and just noticing the connections among them. And so just really grateful for the blooming of this plant as the inspiration for aliveness.
Karen.
Thank you, Belinda, for helping me see deeper into this card, because I kind of got stuck on the word destiny, because I think of destiny as a destination, and I'm so focused on journey. And I feel like what we do in this circle, this synchronicity and everything else, is all about the journey and not a destination. And so it kind of rubbed me awkwardly that this was the first card. And yet listening to you and really looking more closely, the question isn't what are you called to do? It's something, right? So it's taking the steps. It's continuing on a path or on a journey, and just recognizing the spark inside. And so then when I look really closely at the purple flower, the yellow inside is bursting to get out of the dormant winter. And we don't know where it's going to go, but thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I came a little late, but I really love this flower and the words. And as I look at them, I notice that the shortest one is contained, like we've been contained for a year, and yet it's still growing. And I noticed in my life that even through all this being locked up in the house, I've done a lot of growing in ways that I didn't even know that that existed in me. And then it goes straight up into the sky, reaching towards the light is what that says to me. And one of my habits that I've had for many years now is I'm an early riser, and I stand in my door and watch the sunrise every day, and I take pictures and just notice, write poetry, whatever. And that's one of the times when I feel most alive, until I started hiking and walking through COVID, noticing nature. And boy, oh boy, talk about busting wide open. And that's what the last little flower that's bending, leaning into, is what it looks like it's doing to me, leaning into something that gives joy. And I'm grateful that I've had this, something I would have called a horrible, this COVID thing has been horrible, and it's been really full of blessings for myself. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Does anyone else feel called to share? Thank you for drawing attention to that third flower, Kathy. I actually didn't even see the shortest one.
Pharaoh. Go ahead and access your mic. You're still on mute.
I see it. I see it.
There you go.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you for this beautiful space. This card really speaks to me because I've been grappling with something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. For 3 years, I've been planning international wellness retreats or healing retreats. And the time has finally come to launch it and go for it. I'm working with a partner now, and she's really helping me make steps towards it. But I am so scared, so terrified that it's going to fail, that nobody's going to come, that who am I to put on this healing wellness retreat? You know, even though I've been planning it and putting the dots together for 3 years. So this is just another reminder, another sign that I've been asking for from my guides, that I feel so alive when I'm in Tulum. I feel so alive and connected to spirit and to source when I'm in Tulum. And I want to share that with other people. And maybe because I'm in Atlanta right now, I don't remember exactly. And the fears creep, not just creeping in, it's like stomping around and really like throwing me off my game. But this is something I feel called to do. And it's like, all right, girl, this is it. Just go for it. So this is a very beautiful reminder for me right now, because we're supposed to launch March 1st. So I'm like on the cusp of being able to back out, but I'm not going to. I will make a public accountability post that I'm not going to back out. I will plan this retreat and I'm going to go for it. Yeah. So that's what it brought up for me. Thank you guys. Thanks. I see.
Well, I'll go. So if I'm really being honest about this, honestly, when I see Destiny, all I can think of Destiny's Child, and then that makes me think of Beyonce, and then Beyonce makes me think of the Beehive, and so, you know, I love just how words can sort of flow, and you know, and it just, you know, I did beehive, and then that just, I've been learning about bees a lot recently. And when they come back to, I guess, the beehive, they do these like very intricate dances to show folks where they found flowers. And so that like you can actually, they said this idea of mapping and how do we map and how do we communicate. As I've told you, I'm obsessed with navigation now. And I love the idea of, I'm telling you where I'm going through a dance, you know, and of course, you know, and maybe that's what Beyonce does. Like Beyonce, she tells us in some ways, like how to come alive through dance and music. And I think that to me is just, sometimes destiny can feel heavy because it can feel like fate or something. And I think when we can sort of just treat it with joy and curiosity. I mean, if you look at those flowers, like they feel so delicate, like, you know, that one that's leaning, and yet it's resilient. Like it broke through the earth to reach for the sun. And so it just, I don't know, I'm believing that that flower has an allocentric point of view because it's just staring up at the sky all day.
I love how the birds are speaking with you, Omar.
I do
So nice.
that. Well, on my Zoom calls, everybody's like, "Where are you?" So many birds. There's like, and just, this is total sidebar here, but today as I was looking up in the sky, a flock, and I'm telling you, a flock of probably 30 parrots, wild parrots, were flying over me. I'm in the city. Like, I'm 8 miles from the ocean. I'm 8 miles from downtown. And a flock of wild parrots were over me. And I could tell because they sound different than other birds. So, sorry. Anybody else feel called to this card? We ready to pull another one? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yeah, who wants to be our next card picker for the group?
It's like being a farmer. You're getting to pick the plant, you know?
Yeah, there's no bad card. They're all good cards. So just keep moving the screen. If you want to tell us to stop, we'll stop. Let's do it slow. Is there a card that's speaking to anyone right now? I say stop here.
Yeah, I was feeling this row too.
So yeah, who wants to pick a card from that row?
1, 2.
There one.
Or you can throw it in the chat. It's just 1 through 6. So if anybody's feeling a number, or you can show your fingers.
Hi.
3. Oh, and 4. All right. Veronica says 3. I saw hers first. Sorry, Emma.
And Linda too. Then we'll get you guys for the next round.
All right. Here we go. From destiny to mystery. 25, the orchid. Can you embrace the unknown and be grateful for the mysteries in life? Veronica, is this one speaking to you?
Yeah, it totally is. It goes hand in hand. I feel like the unknown of what's gonna happen is what's scary to me. But what if the unknown is the beautiful thing that if I don't move forward, I won't get to see what the mystery is. So it's exactly that. Like, it's actually turning fear of the unknown into something beautiful. It's turning it on its head. And it's kind of like, it's just a mystery. Like, yeah, you might not sell tickets, but who, like, what's going to happen? You know, like, I'll learn from it. It's still going to be, I can still find success within that. Right. And it's a mystery. It might actually be the most amazing kick-ass thing I've ever done. And it'll keep me going forward. But that mystery is the thing that's so scary. And I'm so like, I don't know why I feel embarrassed, but if I play with this, with fear and mystery and moving forward along with those two, like side by side, then it's okay. Yeah, I think it makes it actually fun. And this just really feels like, okay, like this feels really powerful for me right now. I love it.
Thank you.
I feel called to speak on this mystery card, specifically because I went to a plant store not too far from me today. I thought I was going to become a plant mom, but they didn't have the plant that I was looking for. And so they had a box of orchids on the floor. And for some reason, I looked at them and it was like time stopped. And I was like, well, I know I'm not getting one of these. So like, what's going on? Why was that deep pause there? But I just remember it. And because I feel like they're too delicate and pretty for me to take care of. So I wouldn't feel like this would be a plant I'd be called to get, but I can appreciate it. But in thinking about, I feel like one of the greatest mysteries for me in life is just whether I'll be in a romantic partnership. I think sometimes I get heady about it because of my age, and I feel like, well, people my age, you know, a lot of people are married or they have kids. So to me, marriage and a partnership feels like a mystery. Like I don't know how to call it into my life. But today I was doing some affirmations. And I noticed while doing the affirmations that I had a sense of peace about if it happens, if it doesn't happen, I'm still good. I'm still okay. I know how to live and be like a single person. I enjoy singleness. But, you know, I think there's a part of me, I don't know where it is, but as a woman and as a human, you kind of like, you know, am I going to be a wife? Am I going to be a mom? You know, why is it a mystery for me specifically? Like, what's going on, God? I don't know. There's a lot going on for me with this card and for the word mystery in itself. But I do want to embrace the unknown and just be surprised. Thank you.
Emma.
It struck me like how mystery can, in the unknown, can occur to me as like something that's insubstantial, or like, yeah, because it's unknown, it's like yeah, just not as concrete, and it's not as solid. And yet when I look at those pink orchids, for some reason they strike me as being very solid and sturdy, and which had me think like, I don't see mystery that way. And then I thought, how, what if mystery is actually what's solid in life? Like, what if mystery is actually a good foundation rather than, yeah, I can see how for me the unknown has felt like, no, I don't want to base my life on that. And I feel like almost what's being in, yeah, almost like invited into saying, what if my foundation was on the unknown, and like the unknown is being like God too, because I feel like, I mean, that's for me the greatest unknown. Like, and yeah, what if that unknown is actually solid? And I also see in the flowers, like they're really close together, is how it feels like to me, and they're not alone. And so I'm thinking like, what if mystery is actually something that can stabilize me and have me not feel alone, actually experience being together.
Thank you.
So appreciating how silence continues to be a participant in our circles.
I think I'm feeling like very literal today. And so when I see mystery, I don't know, it made me think of like a crime like series, like a detective. And, you know, and I think so often, maybe, I don't know, is because of that association, a detective is looking for a crime and or solving a crime. And what if it's not? What if it's like mystery is more of like a tracker, and is like sort of following the footsteps that were there and just sort of seeing what was going on, and sort of really, I don't know, can you be like a detective for good? Like, what would it look like to go through life and being like, I'm looking for the clues of goodness? You know, like there is no crime, there is no like, there is only good. And I just, you know, as Mandy, you said, you know, or I think Emma, I've been meditating on this Khalil Gibran poem that I was somebody shared with me recently. And so what if we didn't think about God in our heart, but what if we thought of ourselves as in God's heart? And just that reorientation, right? Like it was sort of, again, like looking out at the sky as our front yard, and just, instead of sometimes these things we focus in on ourselves and feels like I'm lost or things are confusing, but then that's sort of like, oh, if I look out and I'm looking for the clues, you know, and I think part of what, to me, with these circles, I feel like we're learning to become navigators again. Like these are new stars. Like we lost some of the oral traditions and histories that would allow us to just navigate in the night. Like the night can be mystery, right? Like we think about night and mystery and darkness. And well, it's in part like I live in a city. I just told my wife this a couple days ago. I was like, honey, it doesn't have to be immediate, but sometime soon we're gonna have to move somewhere where I can see the stars at night. Because for generations, people could look at the stars at night and there was no mystery as to where they are because they could see where the stars were. And that was enough to help them know where they were, no matter where they were. And I don't know, I've been thinking about lately also this idea that maybe at night is when the veil of the sky is lifted. And the sky, in some ways, the light is actually blinding us. And when we turn off the light, and in the night we can see the stars, then our eyes are actually open. Yeah, I want a detective for good.
I'd like to speak again. I find it interesting too that we perceive mystery as always being something negative. And I think that's because of TV and our culture. I don't think that that's because of reality. I think in my life anyway, every time there's been a mystery, it's always been, oh my, it's like a surprise, a huge surprise. It's almost always positive. That doesn't mean that negative things don't happen and that they're not a surprise too. My husband was diagnosed with cancer 3 months ago. That was a huge surprise, but it wasn't a mystery. I mean, a mystery is something that's dropping seeds along the way or something to warn you that something bad is getting ready to happen. I think our culture is full of mystery because we don't know what's in charge or who's in charge. But in my life, I look around my house and go, there's nothing bad going on here. There's nothing going on outside in my backyard or front yard. Why am I getting all worked up over some voices, talking heads on TV? I just have to really get back in my space, in my body, paying attention to what it is that my spirit is leaning into. And that's what this whole mystery and destiny are about for me. And I have to say, I'm one of the oldest ones here. And I think that this changes as you age, how you perceive these words, just because of time on the planet. And that's not a judgment, just something that I've noticed in my own self. I would have answered these much different when I was in my 30s. And now that I'm almost 70, it's totally a different response. So thank you for having this though. This is beautiful. What a nice thing.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you so much for sharing. You've been speaking so much of the stars, and I just wanted to share something, if that's okay, real quick. It's from the Four Agreements, a Toltec wisdom book about the stars, which speaks a lot. He comes out of a cave and he looks at his hands, he felt his body, and he heard his own voice say, I am made of light, I am made of stars. He looked at the stars again and he realized that it's not the stars that create light, but rather light that creates the stars. Everything is made of light and the space in between isn't empty. And he knew that everything that exists is one living being and that light is the messenger of life because it is alive and contains all information. I am in between the stars, he thought. And I just found that really pretty. I had a really mystical, magical weekend, and a lot of mystery is in my mind right now. And a friend came over, and I never get this, and she brought an orchid. And so I'm looking at my orchid outside right now, and I just thought of that kind of that synchronicity of all things, that was a gift. I have not had an orchid in my lifetime. So it's beautiful, it's yellow. with like a red center, and there's 4 beams on it. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you all for being here. A little tired today, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share on this card? Otherwise, I feel like we had 2 people pick the 4th card over. So unless anybody else wants to share on mystery, I think we can go to see what the 4th card. This is always like, to me, like destiny, mystery, and then drum roll, please.
Yeah.
What is it?
Let's see.
Da-da-da. Ooh.
Hmm.
Remembrance. This is interesting. Oh, I'll wait. Hoppy. Remembrance. Remember someone you are thankful for. How can you honor them?
Does anyone come to mind for anybody here right now seeing this?
I have someone that comes to mind. Today's the 25th. On the 21st, I was really struggling to remember why the 21st of February was so important to me. And I thought, I was just like, this day was important to me some time ago, but I can't figure out why. And so I think yesterday it dawned on me that someone who was like a matriarch in my family of origin, it was her birthday. And I was like, how could I forget something like that? That, you know, used to be like celebrated. And I think it's just because, you know, I've been like, for a long period of time, estranged, you know, from my family. But I thought, you know, I need to incorporate remembrance, you know, into my life through the good, the bad, the different, the ugly, just, you know, allow myself to remember, especially people who were valuable to me, even if they're not in my life anymore. But just to take a moment to honor that that was a life that was, you know, a part of my experience. Yeah, so I owe that to other people and to myself to just remember.
I'll share. I think right now we for Chinese New Year's a couple weeks ago, it was much smaller this year, as you can imagine, but my uncle came over, and I started asking him questions about our family on the Chinese side of my family. And I think our family first came over in the late 1800s. And I think it was like in the 1880s. I had a great grandfather who had a store in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And yeah, it's just so remarkable. I just trying to imagine him coming from China. And in the late 1800s, Albuquerque was like the Wild West. I mean, that was like cowboys and guns and robbers. And I just imagine this guy, like, how did he learn to speak English? Like, how did he, you know, like, how did he end up in Albuquerque? And how did he end up owning a shop, right? Where he was like selling goods, and like, what was that trade network that had to like happen in order for that to exist? And his son was the valedictorian of the high school. And I went online and I actually was able to find my family in Albuquerque, like museum is on the website. And so I saw like my great, I don't know, one step down from that grandfather in his high school graduation, and the only Chinese guy in this class. And then he went to the University of Michigan. And so I just, I think in some ways, destiny and mystery sort of felt like forward looking. And I'm appreciating that this is sort of looking backwards too. Because we didn't get here by accident. A lot of people had to make a lot of sacrifices. In fact, that's my favorite word is blessed. And it's a German word, Blotham, which means to sacrifice with blood. And so when we say that we're blessed, we're really acknowledging the sacrifices that others made for us to be here. And I just, I think, how do we hold these memories? We used to have oral histories and oral traditions, and how do we kind of make space for that again? I guess this just asks a lot of questions. Thank you.
When I hear this one, 25 years ago, my husband and I moved to Tennessee, and I'm in recovery, and I met this old lady at the time who taught me to make a gratitude list every day of 3 things. And the only thing that you could repeat was your sobriety. It had to be 2 new things, no matter what. And when she first told me about doing that, I just like shook my head going, yeah, right. And I can't even begin to express how that changed my life. And discovering that no matter how bad things are, I can find 2 things to be grateful for every single day. And I can sit here with honesty and say almost for 25 years, almost every day I've done that. And it's not journaling, it's just naming 3 things. Because she said, if you start journaling, then you'll just quit doing it because it takes too long. But if you just have to write 3 things in a little tiny box, you'll do it. And she was right on. And it's something that is passed through the recovery meetings in this town. And those that do it it changes everything about how you look at life. And we don't notice it ourselves, but people's faces change when they get grateful as compared to when they're broken. And that gratitude can really repair. And she said, she taught me this too. And when you're in a real crisis and you don't have a clue what to do, make a gratitude list with the alphabet, A to Z. And that changes everything, just having to figure out one thing with each letter of the alphabet. So thank you. What a great group this is. That's all.
I think we have time for maybe one more person to share, 1 or 2 more people.
I think I will just acknowledge my maternal grandmother in this card. Omar, it's so funny that we both have, Chinese backgrounds. I'm originally from Taiwan. I immigrated to the US from Taiwan. And growing up there as a child, it was like our families that raised us. Both my parents still worked, and my mother's mother was the one that took care of me because I was too young to go to school. And I just remember how unconditional her love was. Like, I never felt a day without just being so nurtured and loved as like my first 5 years of life. And I think my biggest regret about us moving to the US was I never saw her again, because we, through the immigration process, we couldn't go back. I didn't get my citizenship until college. So so that, and when she got sick in high school, my mom was the only one that could get the visa to go back to say goodbye. But my mom told me, she was like, yeah, when she was transitioning, grandmother said your name and your sister's name. And there's a part of me that feels a lot of regret to not have been there for her, like when she was physically transitioning. And I feel like this card is also saying like that remembering or that reverence, like it doesn't go away after someone's gone, or even if you can't see them again, like there's still the honoring of them. And I just am really appreciating that the spirit and the memory continues, even if we can't like touch them or see them. So yeah, just grateful for her and that lesson.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. These are always awesome, but this today felt even more awesome. And I think just a note as we close, and this was inspired by Kathy's comments, is I obviously founded a gratitude app, and Melinda founded Gratitude Blooming and the cards, and I think for me, and Belinda and I came together in December to create these gratitude circles. And partly why we did it is that I think the full power of gratitude as a social emotion is when we tap into our social connections. And I think as a society, sometimes we ask too much of ourselves as individuals, right? Just say, take care of you, self-care. And I don't know, it has that, again, that egocentric point of view of it's just me. And I think the allocentric, I think the root word is about other, and how are we connected to others, and gratitude. And I think Belinda even sent me something about this from our sort of evolutionary traits of, it's a genetic behavior of connectivity. And what I love about the circles is that the gratitude gets amplified. And we don't need to fix, save, or advise anybody. We can still be our own best inner teachers and guides, but there's something special that happens when we can do this in community. So I just really want to thank each of you for showing up. I know it takes a little bit of bravery. It certainly just takes, a certain amount of like, oh, I'm going to do this on a Thursday at whatever time zone you're in. But I think there's something powerful here, and I'm certainly grateful to be part of it. So we're going to just close with 3 breaths. Just get comfortable. This first breath, I just want you to look back over the last hour and just notice any of the words, the flowers themselves, whatever the inspiration was in a moment of appreciation. And then this next breath, just how are you feeling in this moment, right now, right here? And this last breath, I just invite you to think about destiny, mystery, remembrance in the week ahead. How can you invite the goodness, the possibility, the courage, the destiny, mystery, and remembrance remind us of? Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you being here. Belinda and I do this for free. So to help us, we'd love for you to shop at Gratitude Blooming, download the app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, so we can continue to spread the good word. Cheers.
Thank you all so much. Hope to see you next week.
Thank you, Belinda. Thank you all.